Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start off with having our elder Marie Francis do an opening prayer for us. So if you can stand, please stand.
Too loud. I turned it down. This camera audio is. I remember Willow would complain about it. I think it's the same one.
Father and Son and Holy Spirit. Malali Guchinen, Dandari Pisuri, Gladiat, Daniel Mavidaya. Nakapakon mo ganyan ako yung sa Kaway Walasi.
Okay. You want me to stand the phone or
Richie
not?
Daniel Madden with Kubano.
Thanks.
Anyway, Walasi Kaway ang mga pala madutinin. Akbo Wanchilayin, Nadliyach.
Thank you, Marie. So I'll start off with thanking everyone for coming out today. We have grassroots people, we have chiefs and councils, we have our Grand Council members and Grand Chief. We have a lot of support throughout Turtle Island, and we're very honored to have our national chief here as well. We're back and forth today with DFO on what we're going to do and what we're going to take place. For us, it's a matter of we all know we have the right to live off the resources, and that's what we want to do. And they're infringing on that right daily. So we're here to back our people up, and I'm very honored to have everyone here to show support for all of our members. And I'll be back in a bit. I just want to introduce next Regional Chief PJ Prosper to say some words.
Grand Chief, Grand Council members, National Chief, fellow chiefs, community members. It's an honor for me to be here, to take part in this wonderful event. Many of you have come from many distant places throughout our territory to come, to celebrate, and to recognize the rights that we have given to us by Gisul, the Creator. Since time immemorial, we have been governed by our own customs, values, and traditions. These were the gifts given to us by Gisul, to live in harmony with nature, to enjoy the bounty of nature, and to provide for our families, for our people. We are still here as Mi'kmaq people, and we will still continue to practice our lands, practice our rights to our lands and resources. It is our responsibility as Mi'kmaq people to uphold those original instructions given to us by the Creator, that we exercise to terms like Netagalum, recognizing that we must provide not only for ourselves, but for our families and for future generations. I would like to recognize the vision of Chief Mike, his council, his community. We recognize your strength within these times. And yes, it's not easy dealing with the host of issues that people have brought before us. But your strength, your pride, your resilience will ensure these rights will live forever and forever. Walalio, thank you very much. I'm Sid Nugama.
Thank you very much, Chief PJ. And now I'll ask our national chief to come with us and bless us with some words.
Oachiemisoy. RoseAnne Archibald Nitishnikatsin, Dagodagamorishikatakochian. Monashkakoyas Kashkitangichimoyan, Sagochmaga Nikiskanomas and Kichinitainimoyan. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, I should say. Before I start, I want to first of all acknowledge the Creator, the world around us, and our place within it. I acknowledge that we are on the unceded ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. In my language, there are two words for thank you. Miigwech is one, and the other one is Ninanaskamun, which means I am grateful, I am thankful, and I thank you. So I want to say, first of all, Miigwech to Nova Scotia, Newfoundland Regional Chief PJ Prosper. I want to also say Miigwech to Chief Mike Sack for the invitation, and the Sipekne'katik First Nation, the council as well, and the community. And I want to also say Miigwech and Ninanaskamun to all the chiefs and councilors who have joined us here today. I especially want to say Ninanaskamun to the Grand Council leaders that are with us here today. Miigwech for guiding me as I've entered the territory. We did meet yesterday, and I want to say Miigwech for your kind words and for your guidance as I start to support the Mi'kmaq people in this special time that we find ourselves in. It is an extraordinary time in Canada because of our little ones being recovered from institutions of assimilation and genocide. I don't like to call them schools because there are no schools, there are no graveyards in schools. And so, Miigwech. But at the same time, this has created an empathy and an understanding by regular Canadians of the true shared history of this country, the truth part of truth and reconciliation, the impact that our children have had to suffer throughout the colonization process, and particularly that our children continue to suffer under the ongoing colonization process today. But I do want to say that there are many, many good things and positive things that our people also need to celebrate. And there are many firsts that we can hold up our people and lift them up. And so when I stand here today and I watch the First Nations in this region exercising and asserting their inherent and treaty rights, to me that is a light toward the future, that there is promise and hope in the future and a path forward toward healing and toward prosperity for our people. And while our nations move forward and our children grow, we continue to fight the same old battles, those that have plagued our peoples for centuries. And I watched yesterday, when I was in Pictou Landing, children playing on the beach, and young people were fishing on the shore. They were pulling their lobster traps up from the beach, which they have done since time immemorial. And they were asserting their inherent and treaty rights to harvest lobster for communal, commercial, food, social, and ceremonial purposes. These, where we stand today, these are sacred waters on sacred lands where we have sacred responsibilities. I met with Durney, who said he was born fishing and that that's all he knows and will ever do. I met Chelsea, whose father was a boat captain. These two are among hundreds who continue to exercise their creator-given right to the fishery. I also witnessed DFO boats not too far from the beaches, pulling in traps that were laid out by these fishers who were fishing to support their families, using older traps because they knew they would lose them to the DFO and never returned. Chief Andrea Paul of Pictou Landing continues to encourage her people to exercise and defend their inherent and treaty rights to harvest these resources. And it was only last week that Chief Paul and others were met on the water by DFO following their treaty fishery launch. She live streamed her encounter as she explained treaty rights to the officers and the importance of the fishery called Natukalumk, which means sustaining resources for future generations, which we have done for thousands of years. So the interference by the Canadian government and the DFO in this process is not acceptable. Leaders like Chief Paul and Chief Sack continue to uphold the sacred promises and commitments to peace, wellness, friendship, and mutual respect. It is the right thing to do for all levels of government on behalf of all Canadians to do the same on their part. In less than 2 weeks, the people of Canada will elect a new leader. Canada has a great deal of work to do to fulfill its promises to build safe, vibrant communities and a more prosperous society for our nations and therefore for all of Canada. First Nations have rights, title, and jurisdiction, as well as self-government agreements, all of which are recognized under Canadian law, under the Constitution of this country. And all of these rights are obligations on the part of the Government of Canada. So at the AFN, we created an election document, and it's called the Healing Path Forward, because that's where we have to start walking toward. And this Healing Path Forward document outlines the priorities for First Nations in this federal election. And one of these priorities is promoting peace by respecting First Nations sovereignty and jurisdiction. Respect and peace go hand in hand. Otherwise, unhealthy conflicts will continue, as we have seen here on the East Coast and are beginning to see on the West Coast fisheries as well. Too often, we have seen the negative consequences of conflict. For Canada's economy, conflict has meant loss of investor confidence and lost opportunities. I met with Mi'kmaq chiefs yesterday who have called the treatment they are receiving a form of cultural violence. I believe this, and I will continue to advocate on behalf of the chiefs who are standing up for their rights. The AFN stands by First Nations East Coast fisheries. The AFN stands with you as you exercise your treaty rights to operate commercial lobster fisheries. Conflict is a legacy in which Canada has offered apologies and promises. It's time for these promises to be made concrete through commitments to recognize, respect, and promote First Nations rights, while at the same time providing justice for First Nations citizens who are both working within the Canadian legal framework and who are forging ahead with their own laws and processes. Another election priority outlined in our Healing Path Forward document is rebuilding and strengthening First Nations, where I am calling upon all political parties and election candidates to support the development of a mandate and framework for a national secretariat to promote the implementation of all Supreme Court of Canada decisions related to fisheries. This includes recognizing and respecting the authorities of First Nations to govern their fisheries in their territories, and recognize and respect the equivalency of First Nation laws within Canadian fishery regulations. So I'm again here to support you. I'm here to support the Mi'kmaq people, the fishers, the fisheries, until proper action is taken to ensure the safety of our people and their treaty rights. I will continue to support our people who stand up for their inherent and treaty rights, like Chief Mike Sack and others who have lost their traps and have been arrested and endured injustice, is what's been happening. But we're going to carry on because that's the right thing to do. And I will continue to demand that the federal government uphold and honor all treaty relationships with First Nations in Canada. And much more still needs to be done. And we are all going to get there by working together, respecting one another. And this means creating a unified approach on long-standing issues and seeking the federal government that is willing and ready and committed to working with our leadership to build a stronger economy, stronger communities, which means happier and healthier families in First Nations and across Canada. So here are my calls to action. Intimidation and violence on the lands and on the water must stop. It must be transformed into the treaty promises of sharing and working together, and I ask our allies to stand with us. No more confiscation of lobster traps and gear. You are taking food from our children's mouths. That has to end. Stop criminalizing our treaty rights. No more arrests, no more intimidation. There is no excuse for cuffing and arresting a 14-year-old boy. If anything, our young people need to be supported and encouraged to participate in their traditions that are thousands of years old. It is time for the promises to First Nations to be fulfilled, that these commitments to recognize, respect, and promote First Nations rights, at the same time having justice for our people. The time is now to take these steps to the healing path forward for all of us. Ninanaskamun Gisakitan. Ninanaskamun, I explained, is thank you. Gisakitan means I love you.
Thank you very much, National Chief Archibald. So you've seen DFO in Pictou Landing. It's an awful sight. Hold my beer, because you're going to see a lot more, right? The old saying goes. But the whole intention of this is, every time I come down here, the frustrations on our people's face, their body language, it just doesn't sit well with me. So I go home and I carry that stress, and you're up at night and you're thinking about what can we do to help? How can we move this forward? I really like how you talked about unity, and I'd like to see unity from coast to coast. There's this BC's facing it. We're facing it here in Nova Scotia. All the Ilnu's across Canada need to come together, stand up against the government, and take that right back that we have. For us in our community, we're all different dynamics, but poverty is big in our community, the lack of housing, the residential school effects is still there. So for us, this is kind of one avenue out of those hardships that we have. So I've been asked a lot about how is today going to look, and we're kind of just winging it. But the next step for us would be we notified DFO we're going to be here and we're treaty fishing. So we're going to load a boat, we're going to go out, and we're going to treaty fish. Part of me thinks that, DFO will not come close to us because we have leadership on a boat, which will be bad on them for, they'll be back tomorrow harassing our people. So, I'm excited to see how this afternoon's going to go, and we'll treaty fish, we'll bring lobsters in, and maybe we'll sell a few. So we're trying to move forward on who's going on what boat. We're lucky enough to have our fishermen and fisherwomen volunteer to take some people out to be there to witness what happens as we treaty fish. So I think that concludes our speaking, and I guess there'll be a media scrum, and in the meantime we'll get the boats all situated and take people out to witness what's going to happen this afternoon. Thank you. And Chief Archibald,
Since I've been here. And that to me speaks a lot about the Mi'kmaq people. I want to just reiterate that we are going out on the boats and we're going to do so safely, but we are doing it because this is our sacred responsibility, and that's what this eagle feather is about. These are sacred waters, these are sacred lands, we have sacred responsibilities, and we're going to go out there and do it safely, and we ask that any government officials here respect First Nations and their rights, not only today when I'm out on the boat, but every single day. Miigwech.